Welcome, everyone, back to the South Endzone. I am Chad. He is Tyler. We are back and ready to get at it again because, look, it's hard, Tyler, to not think that we're on that collision course that we've been talking about for quite a while because, LSU still has their fate in front of them. They still control their own destiny. Well, with the lone exception being if somehow miraculously Ole Miss can get through you guys and the rest of their schedule and actually be the team that wins the West. I don't see that happening. But even then, it becomes Ole Miss beat LSU, LSU beats Alabama, Alabama beat Ole Miss. If that's how it ends up being, and all three of those teams end up with one loss, the tiebreakers get kind of complicated. So it's not completely control your own destiny, but assuming that you guys take care of Ole Miss in a few weeks, and that LSU actually takes care of business in Tuscaloosa against Alabama, then LSU does control their own destiny. So you guys have a bye this week. It's time for you guys to get some much needed rest and healing. Yes. Although I don't think it's going to be quite enough to get Brock Bowers back healthy, but hopefully his tightrope procedure will have him ready to go sooner rather than later. How you feeling, man?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask the public, we might as well just put every game for the rest of the season down as a loss. We might as well just not play and signal another game. We should just wrap it up, pack it up and go home. Forfeit the rest of our couple games.
Listen, you're not going to get any sympathy from me, okay? Look, this is the baggage you have to carry around now as the premier program in college football. If you're going to be the gold standard for what it means to be the best in college football, you have to deal with the albatross of carrying around everyone's expectations that you cannot have any mistakes, any flaws, any hiccups along the way. You haven't even lost a game yet.
I know. 24. We've been the number one team in the country for over 40 weeks. We have won 24 consecutive games. We haven't lost since 2020.
Well, wait, no, you
2021. Excuse me.
2021. Well, and even then, you lost the SEC championship game to Alabama. So
exactly. So excuse me, 2021.
Yeah.
24 game win streak. Yes, Brock Bowers is hurt. Oh no, we gave up our first touchdown to Vanderbilt in 5 seasons. Oh no. You're right. People do have that expectation of us to just beat everybody convincingly all the time, and I feel like we still won by 17 points. Like it's not like we won by a touchdown or a field goal. Like and those we were up what 30-7.
Yeah,
and then they scored the points late, so it's not like. We probably should have cut them off the board at the end, but it is what it is.
But you were living up to your reputation of just not being able to cover.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So we covered one time this year. I was at that game. We took the 14-point spread and said, hey, I'll raise you 30-something. But the good news is that Oscar Delp, our tight end, has played along Brock Bowers all year. Like he has been in the mix, has had reps. It's not like he's, in the NFL when a backup comes in. It's like it's his first real game all season. Mm-hmm. Oscar Delp has been in the mix. He's good. Obviously, yes, Brock Bowers is Brock Bowers. He is, one of the best offensive players in the country. If you ask me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like that's easy to just replace. But we are the University of Georgia. We do have weapons everywhere else on the field. We can use those weapons, and I think that we can finish the rest of the season and get through to Atlanta.
All right. So is this defense and is the surrounding talent good enough to win a third straight national championship with Carson Beck at quarterback and with potentially no Brock Bowers for, let's say it's the next 5-6 weeks?
Yeah, it sounds like Bowers, if Bowers makes his return, it would be if we were in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that given all the other receivers, like yes, Brock Bowers is open all the time, but we have stud receivers all over the field. It's just making sure that Beck sees them, finds them,
Mm-hmm.
and we make the right plays, that our play calling is executed well. This defense up front is obviously not Jordan Davis. It's not Jalen Carter.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have some guys that can get it done. It'll be interesting to see how we fare against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Florida.
You got a bye week, and then you've got the Florida game in a couple of weeks.
Of course, we lose Brock Bowers before the end of our schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm hoping is, Kirby Smart is, from the Saban coaching tree. And what I'm hoping is that we do the Saban team peak in November kind of thing where we, where, yes, like I said, luckily for us, we are still going into this back half of the season without a loss.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not like we're going in with one loss. We can't lose ever.
But if you look at that schedule though, like you've played nobody up to this point, except for that Kentucky game, which shout out to you for bringing them the lucky rabbit's foot and having them drub a team that some people thought actually had a shot at taking a crack at the champs.
Yeah,
but you do have Missouri and Ole Miss at home, and then you go to Neyland Stadium after the cocktail party next week. So like that's a little 4-game gauntlet that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and Mizzou has pretty much always said, "Hey, we might just be the second best team in the East."
Mm-hmm.
Like at this point, I think cocktail party down in Jacksonville that will and forever will be an interesting game. Yep. Florida will be there for that one. I just think that we have to take the best of what Carson Beck has shown us and make sure that we get that out of him. Because we don't want South Carolina. We don't want checkdowns on top of checkdowns. We need him to stay calm. We need him to see the guys. Because like I told you, I was at the game. Guys are open and getting open multiple times in the same play.
Right.
Dejon Edwards is a great running back. Obviously we've in the past had the luxury of Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Todd Gurley, guys of that caliber. But, we have guys in the backfield. Kendall Milton is, working through some stuff. He's there. And and people forget that Ladd McConkey's back. So Brock Bowers being out is obviously it's going to be noticeable. But I think that we can rally around that fact. It means that we have to tighten up. It's you've seen those NFL memes where it's like, oh, Brock's down there somewhere, right? The quarterback's looking around like, oh, I'll just throw it up. Brock's down there somewhere.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like we have to be very deliberate with how we move the ball down the field, but I think that we can do that. It's going to be hard. Like like I said, this is the meat and potatoes of our schedule through to the end. So let me stop rambling. Yes, the alarm bells. People are trying to sound the alarm bells. It's gonna be tough. Luckily, the bye week came at a good time. I wish that it wasn't like us, kind of waiting to see what we'll do without Brock Bowers. But we're still undefeated. We are still University of Georgia.
Right.
Kirby Smart is still our coach. We still have talent. I think we can get it done.
Well, I'm rooting for you because it's good for the show.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also I think so. The one thing with the SEC, so if you're an SEC fan, right? And I know that there's a split. I don't know. I guess personalities when it comes to SEC fandom. You have some folks who are just like, no, to hell with everybody but my team, and they're not doing the SEC chant. They're not big on propping up the SEC teams at the expense of other conferences because they're just like, why would I be rooting for Florida? I hate Florida. Why would I root for Auburn? I hate Auburn. I'm not rooting for Alabama. I hate Alabama. It's almost like, and I get it. And I feel the same way. But at the same time, once it's all said and done, you just have to kind of look at the body of work and say, look, you cannot deny that this is the best conference in football.
Yeah.
And possibly in college sports. Now, that's notwithstanding the Title IX era of okay, yes, if we're going to bring in women's soccer and swimming and all this other stuff. And like, okay, yeah, fine, whatever. I guess there's probably some other conferences that do a little better than the SEC. But when it comes to the sports that drive the bus, football, basketball, baseball, it's the SEC. And I know that basketball, the SEC has been kind of up and down over the years.
Yeah.
But baseball, like the SEC has dominated college baseball for a while, very similarly to the way that they have dominated football for a while, winning
also,
over half of the national championships over a long span of time. So
it's also interesting. Like, I've never seen, like, if you see fans of other teams, like, especially like, guys who have played for teams in other conferences that, have shows and things like that, they're almost preying. I've never seen somebody prey on the downfall of an entire conference like some of these other people that are out there. You know what I mean? Like, the Big Ten people of the world.
It's very funny because they get like one little leg up for one weekend, and they are ready to plant a flag. They're just like, look at that, such and such a team beat such and such another team in the SEC. How good is the SEC now? It's like,
exactly.
All right, bro. Like, come back to me after 15 years of dominance.
Who has Michigan played? Not a damn soul.
So the point I was making was, like, I'm rooting for you guys to do well through the rest of the schedule, because what I think no one can deny is that whether you're rooting for the teams in the SEC or not, or whether you're just like, no, I hope everybody in the SEC goes over, except for the games that they have to win because there's two SEC teams playing against each other. Screw them all. I hate them all. Whatever. I just want LSU to win in my case, or your case, Georgia or whoever. What I think no one can deny is that it's healthier for the conference and for your team if the best team in the country is still in your conference, because then if you knock them off, so like, I want you guys to be undefeated when we play you in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
It does me no good as an LSU fan to have Georgia lose 3 out of their next 4 and then limp into the SEC championship game, or give Missouri a rematch against us or some, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what we want. So what I want is Georgia undefeated all the way through the East and getting to Atlanta. And I want LSU to run the table the rest of the way and get to Atlanta. And then we'll let the chips fall where they may, because I still think there's some opportunities for some of these other schools. Like, I think it would be crazy if LSU runs the table and then Florida finds a way to beat Florida State that last weekend of the season.
Yeah.
And you have a couple of other little things like that where it's like, oh, and then this happened. Oh, and then this happened. For instance, today, Auburn hosting Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin with Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
Getting to take a shot at his former team.
Yeah.
Like,
after I've looked at Auburn
this
last week.
Yeah, I've looked at this Auburn team and the way they set up and the way Hugh Freeze coaches and the types of risks that he's willing to take. Reminds me a lot of Lane Kiffin, honestly. In terms of like how renegade he is in his style. I have been watching and waiting for Auburn to sneak up and get somebody. They're gonna get somebody.
We'll try to do it to us.
Is it gonna be today against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze's former team, or is it gonna be maybe in the Iron Bowl?
No.
That, like,
Really?
I'm looking at these like, man, this is some stuff that is not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Worse Auburn teams have beaten better Alabama teams.
That is very true.
And Ole Miss is kind of a crapshoot. And if you look at it, they have not played very well on the road. They almost lost to Tulane a few weeks before they played Alabama, or maybe the week before they played Alabama. Then they scored 10 points against Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and now they're going to Jordan-Hare. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to put it past Auburn to pull this thing off. So, just looking at it from that standpoint, I look at this and I'm like, okay, this thing could set up to where you end up having, let's say Auburn does beat Ole Miss. Well, now it's like, oh, okay, well, that not to say that LSU losing to Ole Miss the way that they did isn't still embarrassing and bad, because couldn't stop them. They gave up 700 yards of offense, yada, yada, whatever. But they've tightened some things up. And so now if Auburn somehow pulls this off, and coming off the heels of getting beat by 30 points by LSU, now it's all of a sudden a different ball game. Then if Florida somehow finds a way to beat Florida State, it kind of, and LSU beats Florida, then it's you have these two things where it's like a couple of your losses kind of get covered up, and you can kind of make some arguments when it comes to college playoff time, because that's what we're all in this for. Like, until you're like mathematically eliminated, or it's like
you're not out of it.
You're not out of it. We saw this last year where LSU was dead and buried, and then all of a sudden, until they went into College Station and laid an egg, they were in the conversation of possibly getting back into the playoff.
We were thinking 3 SEC teams in the playoff if y'all beat us in Atlanta.
That's right. Like, we were looking at LSU, Tennessee, and Georgia, or possibly maybe Alabama, sneaking into one. It was going to be something along those lines. And then Tennessee, Hendon Hooker got hurt, and South Carolina beat them, and they fell apart. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am with this. I'm not going to say we have a bye week. You never take any opponent lightly, but it's Army. LSU's favored by, it was 30.5. Now it's 32.5. You guys have a bye week. We kind of get to breathe a little bit here, but I do want to get into just, back to that comparative scheduling stuff.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about, so we've had a few different little litmus tests, so to speak. You had the South Carolina, almost taking you guys out. And then Missouri, it was Mississippi State. It was Mississippi State, South Carolina. State. And we beat the drums, or beat the brakes off of and then they played each other, and South Carolina won, but it was very close. So I was like, okay, that's data point number one. Then we had, was it Missouri, Kentucky? Yeah. And it was, a team that you guys beat, a team that we beat, and Missouri beat Kentucky.
Which I told you, I called that, by the way. I said Missouri had that.
And then today, and so then we had, you guys almost lost to Auburn. You guys almost lost to Auburn. And we're up by like 30. And I'm like, you guys almost lost to this bunch of ragtag busters over here. No, shout out to Auburn. I hope they play really well today. And
you have to be the biggest fan now.
Right. But LSU just beat them down, and they couldn't move the ball at all against what has been a terrible LSU defense up until this point. So, that was kind of impressive. And so like, as I don't want to call it necessarily the transitive property of college athletics, but it's something along those lines where we're seeing that, okay, we actually have some data points that could suggest that if we do meet in Atlanta, it may not be as lopsided, not even close to as lopsided as it was last year. There's no Jalen Carter coming out to carry Jaden Daniels around and hold up. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a little bit more of an even matchup. So how you feeling? Let's just say hypothetically it does get to that. Do you think there's a little bit more parity just overall in the SEC where there's just more depth?
That's what I mean. I feel like people say, to the people that say the SEC is in a down year, no, I just think that the SEC teams are way closer than I think they honestly ever have been. I'm talking both sides of the conference. You know what I mean? Like Mizzou, we have Mizzou and what is it, even Tennessee?
Tennessee's looking better. Florida's looking a little better.
It's like, who knows? Maybe the whole conference is going to pull a Saban and peak in November.
Yeah, Alabama, LSU, A&M, Ole Miss. There's some health on that side too, where you're about 4 deep. But it's more of like 4 deep where anybody could beat the top team in that division. Whereas it used to be just like nobody. There's 2 teams who have a chance of beating Alabama. There's 1, maybe 2 that have a chance of beating Georgia. Yeah. Now it's like, well, I don't. It could be.
Listen, I could have thought that Arkansas. I told you, KJ Jefferson. I told you that was going to be a close game.
Yeah.
And I think it's this. You can even expand this more to college football as a whole. Like there is no Alabama world beaters who say, "Oh, these are the guys." Like, yes, we are undefeated, but everybody is calling us vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like, You know, there is like, what team has truly, truly separated themselves? Because we haven't yet.
Yeah.
Just because we haven't lost doesn't mean we've really shown that we are the, you know. I think we still need to show that we're the guys. Personally, like, yes, we have saved ourselves, but like, it's not. I don't think we haven't had enough Kentucky showings to really show that we're here. Personally,
yeah, I feel you.
Being hard,
right? I feel you, and I don't disagree. So I think that yes, there is no team that you can say just definitively stands out based on performance so far this year in the SEC, where there's a legit, and so you still have multiple teams mathematically alive to win both the East and the West. LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama in the West. Missouri, Georgia, and Florida and Tennessee maybe are still mathematically viable.
Definitely Mizzou, because we haven't played each other yet.
Right.
I think it's Mizzou and maybe Florida, Tennessee. Maybe.
Yeah. Florida and Tennessee are on the outside looking in.
Tennessee
Missouri controls their own destiny.
Florida beat Tennessee, so it might just be Florida. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
so the point there being, okay, well, you know, when you get into something like that, okay, yes, there isn't that team that has just stood out from the rest where it's like, it's theirs to lose, and I don't see. But I do still think it's yours to lose. It's Georgia's to lose because, yes, you have not lost a game, and you haven't lost a game in 2.5 years, you know. So there's that. And then you compound that with the fact that I think that, and we were talking about this before we came on the air, when you look at like the NFL, and I think college football is becoming more and more like the NFL, the best teams, the teams that really, really have a chance of like just dominating come postseason time and being that team. You've seen it with the Patriots of the past with Tom Brady, and you've seen it with like the Steelers when Roethlisberger was there, and the teams that they find a way to get to the Super Bowl, they can limp along through the regular season for the early part, and then when they start to develop their identity and they start to plug some holes, if they're not dominant right out of the gate, that is. Like, you guys just came out of the gate last year and just blew the doors off of everybody, and finally had that test with Tennessee and just really shut them down. Like, they had been putting up 45, 50 points a game, and you held them to 14. That's that sort of thing. That doesn't always happen, but what you see, and this is what I was telling you before, is like, welcome to the role of, you know, king of the hill, because this is what happens. You get everybody's best shot every weekend, and people will try to say that you're not what you used to be, or that you don't deserve to. There's people throughout the public who are going to be like, oh, Washington looks more impressive. Okay. All right. Come back to me when you've won something, you know, like beating Oregon State and beating, you know what I mean? Like, that's not the same as winning a playoff game, which they never have, you know. Haven't even won a playoff game.
I remember the first playoff game.
The first playoff game, they got boat raced by Alabama. So you know, I pump the brakes on that sort of stuff, because what those guys want to say is that right now Georgia's my number 7 team. Like, okay, all right. Georgia's just like, yeah, you know what? That crap doesn't matter to us.
Yeah,
we really don't care. And honestly, like, it's probably better for us to not be ranked.
Yeah,
because we get to just like keep putting that on the bulletin board and use that disrespect as fuel. And then you tighten things up and you build. And then when it comes time to flip the switch, they flip the switch, because you have some veteran guys who've been there, who've done that. And I know you've lost a lot of guys to the draft, but you still have people who have spent 2 years as national champions.
Yep. And if it was up to Kirby Smart, we wouldn't be ranked.
Right.
Purely like before 2021, we hated being the number 1 team in the country, because we didn't handle it well. You know what I mean? It's always like, Georgia's number 1. Oh, horrible, embarrassing loss. You know,
Yeah.
one of our last losses to Auburn was like the 1 week they faced the number 1 team in the country. Then we went to Jordan Hare, lost by like 30. But I think that we've talked about this many, 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 many times. Is that Kirby Smart will find motivation in anything, no matter how good we are playing. You know, we beat Kentucky by 50. Good, great, okay, whatever. On to the next one. Oh, you know, we had to gut one out against South Carolina. Okay, what can we learn from that? You know, it's just like it's the pessimistic Georgia fan will never truly go away. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's like where you want so much for your team, and
Yeah.
you should see the what I have said is very, very, very light compared to these freaking crazy people online that are like that claim to be Georgia fans but never said one nice thing about the team even after
Listen,
two
I
national championships.
listen. I spent my entire life as an LSU fan. That we had like one, the 1958 national championship with Billy Cannon and like a Heisman Trophy and all that. And even that was still I think we lost one game. And so it was one of those, like, you kind of had to get, that was back when you got voted national champion. There was no winning a
You're our
national
favorite team.
championship. Yeah. And so it's like, these guys, look at that. They got the Heisman Trophy winner. It was that sort of thing. So even then I was like, man, it'd be really cool to really dominate and having to struggle through, the 1-loss season or the 2-loss season, or maybe the 9-3 season, and not getting invited to the Sugar Bowl, even though you won the SEC because you were tied for the SEC championship, but you beat Auburn head to head and they would take Auburn to the Sugar Bowl instead.
Yeah.
Because Auburn travels better than LSU, even though they were stupid because they didn't realize how much LSU fans would have driven from Baton Rouge and drunk the town empty anyway.
They do that.
You know what I'm saying? Like you probably made less money bringing the Auburn people from Alabama, from Montgomery and Auburn and everywhere else around there. You probably did worse than if you had just let LSU go to the Sugar Bowl. But anyway, having to struggle through all those years and live through that, I know what it's like to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I grew up a Cubs fan too, so I know what it's like to live in constant doubt of, like, how is Lucy going to find a way to pull the football and have me end up on my back when I try to kick it. I felt very much like Charlie Brown.
They were working on it with the Phillies.
Yeah, so that's right. So yeah, and but I mean, yeah, at least you got a title back in the day. Shout out Roy Halladay.
Yeah.
R.I.P. But then, and I grew up a Saints fan too.
Yeah.
So, had to live through all that. People wearing bags over their heads, calling themselves the Aints. Like I think this is a sports, and that's one of the things people who don't like sports will never fully understand. It's like watching movies or any other kind of television or other type of visual entertainment.
Yeah.
Except that you're one of the characters.
Yeah.
And so when your team wins, it's like imagine if you're watching a movie and it never goes the way you want it to go.
Never.
And the bad guys always win.
Yeah.
And then one day, finally, the good guys win. And it's like, oh, that's good. Because I've seen people watch shows and they're like, I can't believe so-and-so cheated on so-and-so. I can't believe they killed so-and-so. It's like, well, if you were a Cubs fan, you totally expect that. Because that's like how my life has been.
That's the only outcome, actually.
That's the only outcome every year is like to lose. So like when you finally win, you're like, oh my God, this is the best. This is the best season ever. This is the best episode ever.
It's good writing. Good writing. Good writing.
It's good. It's great writing. But in a way, the great writing is that whole arc of all those seasons. That long arc that ends in a championship and then goes back into the doldrums again of not winning for a while. Like we had the 2007 championship, and then we went to 2011 and had beaten Alabama already, and then
beat us in the
got beat 21-0 in the national championship game. It was embarrassing. had to live through all that. But then 8 years later, we're back in the thing again with Joe Burrow and win it again. And so you get then the arc redeems itself, you know,
Yep.
and you're back on the top of the mountain again. Now we're back down where we are. So you guys will go through it. You're not going to win every championship for the rest of your life, but you know, you enjoy your time while you're on the top.
Yeah, man.
It's good times. That's I don't know. That's what's great about sports. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to the rest of this season where we get to see if we actually have what it takes to meet each other in Atlanta again.
I would love nothing more than to meet in Atlanta because you know it's like it's what I said. Listen, you know, we talked to the college football script writers ahead of time, and we say, you know, we have this show that we put out every week. And could you just make content based around make a season around content for our show? Right. That's actually what we do. Funny enough, everybody who watches, that's actually what we do here. You know, we have that kind of pull here at the South Endzone. We just kind of shape the college football season around our two teams and the show.
Yeah, for what it's worth, we started this channel after LSU was, by all measures, if you talk to anyone in the media, eliminated from the SEC West title race.
Yep.
And then right after we launched the channel, like LSU beats Alabama, and my wife's going to run the blender while I'm talking. But anyway, LSU beats Alabama in overtime in Tiger Stadium, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, like we are on a collision course to play in Atlanta now. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I mean, I love it. I mean, we got some games out here today. I know, like the college game day guys are perfect segue. College game day guys are making their picks. Like I said, we talked about last week.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's break down last week. So you guys took care of Vanderbilt. We already talked about that. It wasn't as impressive as it could have been, but you got the job done. A win is a win in the SEC and on the road, and also like you were up big, and then
in the construction site.
Let them sneak back into it. Yeah, that's right. So Arkansas almost coming back and beating Alabama was not on my bingo card. Like I thought there was a chance for Arkansas maybe to build a lead and then Alabama to come back and snatch it from them.
Yeah.
But Arkansas being down 21-6 and then coming back and almost winning that was not something I expected. That was kind of crazy and just kind of shows you two things. Number one, that what we've been saying about Alabama all along is it still holds, that Jalen Milroe is not the panacea that people were making him out to be. I think he went through like a stretch where he went 1 for 9 during that game and helped Arkansas get back into it with some 3 and outs and some short possessions. But then also that Arkansas is not as bad as their 2-5 record and 0-4 in the SEC looks. They're a much better team than that. They've had some of the worst luck and closest losses. Florida, South Carolina, this is another one of those games where you guys had your work cut out for you with South Carolina, and then Florida went and beat them in Columbia, and we're going to get to play Florida, and we get to see. I mean, I know you guys get Florida first next week
in Jacksonville.
But we're going to see like how does Georgia perform against Florida, and then the next week after that, how does LSU perform against Florida? Because that'll be another one of those little indicators.
We get to play Mizzou, and we get to play Ole Miss.
That's right. That's right.
So we have like a nice little ending to the.
And you already played Auburn and almost lost.
We sure did.
And we beat them by 30. It's on there on the screen.
Hey, listen, you texted me during the game. You're like, really? You really texted me like, really? These guys? I'm like, yeah, those guys. I don't know what you want me to do.
That's right. All right. And Missouri took care of business on the road at Kentucky and Lexington. I thought that was going to be like, I thought Kentucky was going to show out a little better than that at home in a night game, but they just did not have it. They got out to that early lead.
I told you though. I told you. Like the way that Mizzou looked against y'all versus what Kentucky. I know that Kentucky played us, but like they looked like we didn't have to do a whole lot to stop Kentucky.
Well,
it just literally stopped the run game, and you can beat Kentucky.
I'm beginning to fancy myself an idiot for thinking that Devin Leary was actually a good quarterback because
I tried to tell you, Chad.
I saw him play last year, and I I thought that he was part of the reason why NC State fell off. And apparently not, because he transfers to Kentucky, and man, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, Kentucky fans. He had 120 yards in that game passing after Jaden Daniels put up like, I don't know, 400 yards against that same defense a week ago. So, or 2 weeks ago. But the one that I want to really focus on here is Tyler. They're only one loss away from being no better than Texas 8-4. We talked about it. It's every year. It's going to be a thing where, like, what was it that you described them as? They're the regression to the mean team.
It's just perfect. No matter how spectacular their wins are. Excuse me, they can beat Bama and lose to whoever,
Appalachian State or whoever.
Exactly. It's like regression to the mean. They will find a way to be Texas 8-4, no matter what the resume looks like.
Oh man!
Against you, it's Texas 8-4.
Yeah, well, and last year was a great example because they were 5-6 or 5-4. No, they were 4-7.
Yeah,
going into the game with LSU at College Station, and they just played the game of their season against us. And I was just like, all right, I guess that's how it's going to be. Thanks. So this week coming up, this Mississippi State-Arkansas game is an interesting one because Arkansas has a chance to, I'm not going to say like to save their season, but to start to turn the ship around and salvage a little bit of it and keep themselves alive for a potential bowl appearance. They can get their first SEC win. Both teams looking for their first SEC win. Mississippi State at 0-3 and 3-3 overall. Arkansas 2-5 with an 0-4 SEC record. I like Arkansas in this game. Will Rogers has been playing a little bit better lately, but it's I think Arkansas's offense against this Mississippi State defense, I think is a mismatch, and I think they're going to struggle, especially if Arkansas can get some of their other weapons involved. Tennessee, Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I don't sleep on Tennessee. I can't stand Joe Milton and the way he's been playing, but Tennessee's been tightening things up on the defensive end, and they've been playing better football. It seems like they're a 3-loss team. They're 5-1, 2-1 in the SEC.
Yeah, I know.
They're not that bad.
I was going to say the loss to Florida makes, and the way they lost to Florida makes them look like less than. But you're right. Like, it's one loss, it is what it is, and like this is, they claim this to be a rivalry for such a long time.
No, it is.
I know. I'm just saying, but it had not really been a competitive.
Oh, yeah, it had been the rivalry of hammer and nail for a decade or more.
So, and until Alabama walked into Neyland last year, and I'll tell you what, when Tennessee has their version of Rocky Top where they rock the all black, and it's pretty sweet. But this is going into Tuscaloosa. It's not the same.
Yeah.
We'll see if
it's the CBS. It's the CBS 2:30 game. We'll know pretty early on,
based
on Gary Danielson's tone of voice, whether Alabama has a shot to beat the spread in this game, or whether it's going to be really tight
to the end of the game. If it's Gary Danielson.
That's right. But what's interesting too is if you remember that game last year in Neyland was Alabama having a really difficult time protecting Bryce Young, and Tennessee's pass rush really getting after him. And I think that's going to be the same sort of formula for this one, where now that you do have the advantage, if you're Alabama, of in front of your home crowd, you can kind of keep things quiet to where everything can be on a vocal, snap count and everything. And you get that little extra boost for your offensive line where they're going on the snap, and those defensive linemen have to wait and watch the ball. Whereas when you're on the Tennessee side of the ball, so like last year, Alabama's offensive line was having to watch the ball because it was so loud. And that allowed those edge rushers for Tennessee to get off, and get a little bit of a head start,
or at least be on time. And there was some, for a Saban coach team, there were some rare mistakes. That's like the first.
Alabama this year is doing that.
Mistakes. Yeah,
Alabama's committing a lot of penalties this year too.
Yeah,
and turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was like the first offering of like, really, Saban's, they're false starting. They're offsides. What is
Right.
this? They're getting beat over the top. What is happening?
Right,
Like, you know what I
right.
mean? Like, I was like the first. It's like, is this, are they for real? Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
last year's Alabama team is still better than this one. Let's be real. But
Absolutely.
listen, Tennessee 9.5-point road dogs going into Tuscaloosa. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, I like Tennessee and that spread. Give me those points because I think it's going to be pretty close.
Did
Alabama
you take the money line?
has struggled to. I put it on a little parlay. I've got a parlay with the Tennessee money line, Central Florida against Oklahoma.
To cover?
Because I think that's straight up money line. Like this is one of those like $1 to win to win like $170 or something.
Okay, I was like, dude, come on
and
now.
It's like Auburn, Ole Miss, and there's one other one that I can't remember that's in there. Oh, it's Penn State over Ohio State.
That'll be a big one today. I'm excited for that one.
So South Carolina, Missouri. Again, it's one of those games where now I know you guys are going to get Missouri coming up, but it'll be another one of those spots where we can identify like, okay, so you guys almost lost to South Carolina, and we almost lost to Missouri, but we did take care of business at Missouri. And then this Auburn Ole Miss game is the one that really jumps out for me. LSU Army down there at the bottom.
I have a question.
I'm not that worried about winning the games. I want everybody to stay healthy. That's my biggest concern.
I have a question.
Yep.
Why do you guys have to bring the troops down to Baton Rouge and do this to them in a night game?
I don't know, man.
That's literally like, they say the Cowboys are America's team, but this is literally America's team. This is the United States Army.
Air Force are playing against each other. Why don't they get criticized for doing anything to the troops?
Yeah,
they are the troops. Anyway, it's so we'll
don't disrespect the troops, Chad. Jeez,
we'll have Navy and Air Force rooting against Army and rooting for us anyway. So because they have a rivalry with each other. But let's get into this. This oh shoot, I don't even have it on the screen. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot.
You're good.
So we did the Tennessee-Alabama game. Tennessee, 5-1, 2-1 in the SEC. They still, weirdly enough, control their own destiny. Alabama does too. Alabama actually in the driver's seat in the West. And we talked about that one. We talked about South Carolina, Missouri. South Carolina is out of the SEC East race, but they have a chance to play spoiler down the stretch here. With a very ugly 2-4 record. I think their hopes were a lot higher for the Gamecocks this year.
I had higher hopes for them, if we're being honest.
Yeah. We get to this Auburn-Ole Miss matchup, and there were not high hopes for Auburn this year under Hugh Freeze. I think maybe a little higher than an 0-3 SEC start, but they've had a tough schedule to start with LSU, Georgia. Who else did they play? I can't remember who their other opponent was, but it has not been an easy start out of the gate in the SEC. And I really think that Auburn, they played A&M. That was their first opponent.
I was going to say, I was trying to get it
A&M, LSU. Yeah.
In a row.
A&M, LSU, and Georgia.
Yeah. Texas.
Back to back.
Yeah, A&M, Georgia, LSU right in a row.
Yeah. And they're 3-0 outside of those games.
They played UMass, California, Cal, and Sanford, but
no. Yeah. Now, Ole Miss, they've had Alabama, they've had LSU, they beat LSU. But this is one of those games where don't sleep on it. This is a sneaky one where I could totally see Auburn coming away with this victory. It's 6:00 tonight on ESPN, and then like we talked about the LSU Army game. Like I said, you guys already had your moment last week where in a game that shouldn't have even been in question. What's the most important thing coming out of the Vanderbilt game? Yes, you want to win, but you're going to win. It's come out of that game healthy, and you didn't come out healthy.
No.
So I'm really that's my biggest concern. My wife and I are going to the game tonight, and my biggest concern for that game is just keep everybody, especially Jaden Daniels and Harold Perkins, healthy, because in 2 weeks after the bye, it's Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So, and they have a bye too. Like that's the way it sets up. That's why I think, when you look at this stuff, all due respect to the Iron Bowl and everything else, but like, I think when it comes down to it, both of those programs have recognized that the matchup of the year for LSU and Alabama is each other.
Oh yeah.
And I remember there was a
now.
player. Yeah, there was a player, a former Alabama player. I can't remember who it was, but he said that when he got to the NFL and started going through like, weekday or game week preparation, he said every week was like LSU Alabama week.
Yeah.
That just tells you like
yeah.
it's different. It's different. It was like there was a different intensity to the game film study and everything else, where you can't just line up across from the other guys and just be better than them. You've actually got to pull out some wrinkles. So so I'm excited about that one. And I don't know, let's talk about I don't have it to pull up, but let's just talk about some of the big games. Obviously, Penn State, Ohio State, that's a big one in Columbus.
Around here, it's the game.
It's the game, yeah.
It's the game.
You can't go down there and white out, right? That's
no, it's
For those of you who don't know, Tyler is up there in Penn State country. So you don't live in Happy Valley, but you're like not far away, right?
Yeah, about an hour and a half. I was gonna say, how about this? Half, every high school around here, at least half the graduating class goes to Penn State.
There you go. There you go.
That's
and Tyler is out there holding down the Dog Nation by himself.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I guess you have your family's help. Yeah,
my parents, my brother.
That's it. Shout out to your brother, by the way, and you for being on SEC Nation last week and just spamming the behind the scenes, or not behind the scenes, but the crowd images.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when
these two guys are like 6'5" and 6'4", and they're just like towering over everybody else.
He's 6'5", I'm 6'2", and so it's literally 6'2", just like him more than me. He doesn't have to be doing anything. He's just on camera because he's behind everybody else. And I looked at it, I was like, you know what? We should be getting paid for this. We've been on TV for like continuously for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, I'm just mad that you didn't bring a South Endzone sign out there.
I know. If I would have realized it was that easy, no disrespect to SEC Nation, if I would have realized it was that easy to get on camera,
right?
It started at noon. No, it started at 10 a.m. and we showed up at 9:55, and we're just kind of like there. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, I'll tell you one thing: Tim Tebow's neck is freaking this big around. Oh my god!
Yeah, that dude's
I was like, that is a Heisman quarterback right there.
Well,
that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and so if you remember, like, he was the original Jalen Hurts, style quarterback, where it was like, I'm really a linebacker or like maybe a defensive end, who's playing quarterback. Like I can throw it a little bit, but and shout out to Jalen Hurts for having coaches and in both in grade school, high school, and then into college who didn't just lean on his running ability and actually developed his mechanics as a passer. So he's got much better throwing mechanics than Tim Tebow, but those some big dudes.
Yeah.
So Central Florida, Oklahoma, I talked about that one, 17.5-point favorites. Oklahoma kind of riding high right now, but I think that's a sneaky one. Gus Malzahn is not a coach to be trifled with. Like, he will find a way to do some weird stuff. And I think this could be one of those. I'm not saying it's like a trap game necessarily, but Oklahoma coming off of a bye after they beat Texas, they're riding high. They're in the conversation now as a national championship contender, and Dylan Gabriel is getting all that Heisman love and everything. And you got Central Florida coming in right before a little bit of a gauntlet where they travel to Kansas next week and then Oklahoma State after that for the what do they call that one? The
you're never
Bedlam. That's it. It's called Bedlam. Yeah, that's the Oklahoma State game.
Okay.
Bedlam.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so you got that one. We talked about South Carolina, Missouri. That's another one in the top 25. Tennessee, Alabama, obviously.
Minnesota, Iowa with the lowest total in
Minnesota, Iowa. History. That's another one that I have in a parlay.
30 points.
I have the under. I have the under. It doesn't matter what the under is. You just take it because they aren't going to hit it. If they do, you just say, yeah, you know what? I'll take the L, but I'm going to get 9 out of 10 unders right. I'll be okay. So there's that one, and then Michigan State. I don't see much there, and Utah and USC. That's the only other one that's like a decent matchup.
Duke
no Cam Rising.
State.
I don't know when Cam Rising is going to be healthy, but USC licking their wounds after an ugly performance last week, and I think Caleb Williams played his way right out of the Heisman conversation. So now it's just, does Utah have enough to go into the Coliseum and take care of business and give them their second loss in a row? I don't think so. I think USC gets back off the mat in this one, but
Duke and Florida State tonight. That's the only one.
Duke, Florida State, but with no what's his name? Luke Ridley. What's the quarterback name?
Yeah, it's Luke. Isn't it Riley? Yeah. Is the quarterback not in? Is he not playing?
Yeah, he's out. Yeah.
Well. So, also, shout out Notre Dame beating USC last week. What was that about?
Yeah, that was
that was
great.
What?
I mean, I can't stand Notre Dame, but I can't complain about it either. I'm not upset at all. Oh, Riley Leonard, that's his name. I was like
Riley. Riley sounds
like Riley
right.
something. Lincoln Riley. No, not Lincoln Riley. Maybe it's Luke Ridley. I don't know. Yeah,
Riley right.
Leonard.
Somewhere
it didn't sound right when I said it, and so I was like, I've got to look it up because I feel like an idiot.
Leonard Riley, that guy.
Riley Leonard. But yeah, so that one's one. It's a shame because I think that could have been one of those ones where Florida State has a chance to take an L. But Florida State's a really good team.
Do they have the ACC wrapped up yet? Do you think?
No, I mean North Carolina's still out there. Like,
that's true.
Until North Carolina loses a game or that they get to the point where they have they have to play each other in the ACC championship game. I don't you can't give it to anybody. I think it's Florida State's to lose, but Drake May is going to have something to say about that. So we'll see.
Well, I think we'll attack the bye week today. I think we'll be all right. We'll take care of business.
Get it done, man. Get it done, Georgia.
Yeah. You guys
can't have y'all losing. Can't have y'all losing to no one. Don't do that. Don't get anybody hurt either.
25.
Stay healthy,
dude. I know. That was what made me the most mad. Was not the score, was that we got Brock Bowers hurt against Vanderbilt, bro. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna start getting angry. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Y'all enjoy the games today. Go Tigers and go Dogs. Take care of bye. I hear they're like the immovable object. So hopefully their unstoppable force can take care of them. All right, everybody. We appreciate y'all. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Share this thing with all your friends and let them know where the SEC talk is at. And with that, this is the South Endzone. I'm Chad. He's Tyler. Peace, y'all.
Peace.